What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla and SPY and give you guys my projections for 2024. I'm going to talk about some big things that may affect how the market moves and what you should be watching for the later parts of this year. But before I break anything down this information, before I talk about what's going to likely happen to Tesla stock, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with SPY. Right now on the chart, you guys could see for the immediate term, we have this like rising wedge-like pattern, and SPY has been on a rip for quite some time, pushing and pushing and pushing. But the question is, what's going to happen as time progresses? Is this thing going to just continue to run forever? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. I think that there's going to likely be a correction coming, but I don't think it's going to be a massive crash like a lot of people are expecting. It's going to be something very different. So let me break down why on earth my view of the market has not really changed much. I've made previous videos like a few weeks ago about how I still saw this correction coming. I also mentioned that SPY could continue to pump, and that's what's happened. But now the question is, how could this pan out? I'm going to give you guys some very useful information. So one of the reasons why the market's been pumping is because we have this crazy options chain, and the market makers like to squeeze shorts, but they're not going to do this forever if something else changes amongst the overall options positioning, because the options for SPY are one factor, but another big factor will be the overall put to call ratios, right? And that's for the entire market. The market has been very greedy. We were extremely greedy a month ago. A few weeks ago, we were extremely greedy. Last week, we were on greed. We're still on greed right now. And I think that this is very important because when everyone is very greedy and the market keeps pumping and pumping and pumping, this is the time to become a lot more cautious, especially as SPY approaches the psychological 500 area. Now, market momentum is extremely greedy. This is when you want to be a little careful. And on top of this, the put and call positioning is still on extreme greed. This means that right now, we're starting to see, retail essentially catching up. People are starting to buy. They're becoming so euphoric. And this is the time to be a little bit careful because once everyone turns too greedy, that's when these market makers get ready to switch everything. And that could happen very quickly. Now, I also want to mention that when it comes to the specific catalyst that could kind of cause the market to reverse, I can't really predict that exactly. It depends on different factors. It's going to depend on what data we get from the global services and other factors like this. We also have CPI on February 12th. February 13th is CPI day. So we'll be watching to see if that causes anything. Please know the Fed could be another big factor because going into the March meeting, the Fed has made it clear that they're not going to likely cut rates, and the market could start switching directions immediately just from Jerome Powell's words alone. The reason why this is significant is because higher interest rates mean that there's going to be more pain coming to the environment if they're maintained for longer. Okay, we're not seeing much of the pain yet, and I think that has to do with a lot of the liquidity that was pumped during the pandemic period. And if it continues like this, could things hold up? The answer is sure, but I think that there's going to be a risk of a recession. And I think that the risk of this may happen because of more contractions. And I think that we might start to see some contractions because of the Fed. And we're going to be paying very close attention to more inflationary data just to be safe because the last CPI that came out was a little bit hot. So you want to be very careful. Now, what I also want to call out is the fact that for the Tesla investors out there, Tesla did warn us that sales growth slowdown is likely coming for this year, and that's already going to be priced in, I think, in the first half of the year. I think that if the market does get a correction, which I think is very probable, it's going to happen quickly. And I think that because January was strong, that's a big indicator that the market's going to be strong for the second half of the year. So I'll be talking more about this. I just want to mention that February is historically one of the weakest months of the year for Tesla. So be very careful this month. We're only green 38% of the time historically, one of the weakest months. And then for the time that progresses, we have to be very careful. I'll be talking more about Tesla a little bit later in the video. Let's first talk about SPY. So looking at SPY, you will notice that SPY has a tendency of maintaining these uptrends. I'm starting over this chart just to make this as clear as possible. We could also draw out a very important support trend line from the low in October, connecting it to this low, like right about here. This could be done technically. We could even redraw this like this. Either way, however it's done, it doesn't have to be like exactly precise. We can even draw it out from like right here. it doesn't really matter that much. We could just draw it out just like this, just for safety reasons. And then when we move forward with this trend line, this is just a hypothetical trend line to just be watching for. Okay, we could also take our handy dandy Fibonacci retracement tool. I'm going to start off from this low and actually push all the way up to the high up here. Now, the question is, where is SPY going to top if we are in a topping process? And why do I think there might be some kind of like pullback? Well, we pumped basically nonstop like crazy for many, many months without any downside, with very, very little downside, basically. And know that historically, as we approach election years, all right, the closer we get to the election years, historically, what tends to happen is about 9 months before the election, sometimes the market sees contractions. And then as we get closer to the election, we tend to see the market run for the large majority of years. 2008 was obviously a big exception because of external macroeconomic factors. But historically, from 1980 to now, the market does tend to rally approaching the election. If the market's going to price in a recession, which I think it might end up having to do, and look at the current cyclical views of the market, January is strong, and that suggests that the market's going to be in a decent place. But don't forget that as we approach, these key levels, as we approach this key resistance, we have to watch something else that's very important. So I could actually redraw this a little bit. I need to adjust this chart just a little bit. We're going to adjust it like that. So what I'm basically seeing is this: SPY is going to likely see a correction. I think it's going to be a 5 to 7% correction. I think it's long overdue, and that would be very healthy. But I'm still a big bull. Now, let me explain why I say that. So, the market's going to top soon. That's my first prediction. I think SPY may top between 495 to 500. It could go a little higher, who knows? But we're going to form a top soon. And I think the reason they're pumping, excuse me, guys, I apologize. The reason they're pumping the market so hard is to prepare for the dump that's coming, right? Just like how they pumps the market over here as we approach July, we got this big drop approaching October before another rally. So they're getting ready for that. They want everyone to turn greedy because they're getting ready for some very, very crazy volatility. So, what I think might happen is SPY is going to form a top here. I can't predict the timing perfectly. I don't know if we're going to start this correction in March or in just a week from now, but there's going to be a change in market structure. Watch and see if we end up forming this structure where we kind of like from lower highs and lower lows like this instead. And we're going to be looking for a big dump that's going to be coming as we approach, I would say, the month of April/May. I think there's a very good chance this is going to happen as a result of the recession, fears about the recession. And I think that the market's going to quickly price a lot of this in. There's also some risk for the banks. If there's anything that happens involving the banks again, we have to be very careful. Now, we had this breakout area to be watching for, right? We had this 460 area, not to mention these other levels. We also have a lot of gaps on SPY's daily chart in the 470s and 460s. It's also a big one all the way down to about the 440s. Do I think we're going to drop that hard? I wouldn't really count on that, but I could see us retracing at least to this 0.382 retracement to at least 463. If we drop any lower, it is possible we could correct even more than that. So we might see a move like this approaching May. But either way, if we do enter this breakout area, there's a very good chance that SPY could continue to hold up. Now, the most extreme case would be we come all the way down to where our 0.618 retracement is down to 442, and we just like bounce off this trend line. That's like the super extreme downside, which I think is kind of unlikely. I don't really think SPY is going to drop like that much, like 10%. That's a little extreme. So I could see, the 450 to 460 range being re-entered, which is where we had the breakout area. And what they're going to try to do is this is going to be a fake crash, okay? They're going to want you to think there's going to be a big crash like this. They want you to think it's going to crash all the way down to 400. They want everyone to panic, but that's not going to happen. They're going to drop the market because Wall Street's going to re-enter these positions. And then because of the election, it would look really bad if the market crashes approaching the election. So they're going to give us a full V-shaped recovery like this. And we're going to make our way back up to the 0.236 retracement area. And then in September, sometimes we get some corrections in September like this, but then approaching October/November, we might just make a full-on recovery just like this in a crazy parabolic squeeze. And then towards the end of the year, I expect new all-time highs like that. A very, very big V-shaped recovery is going to likely come, and it's going to break to new all-time highs. Now, if you don't believe me, the same thing happened in 2023. Okay, if you don't believe me, check this out. People were panicking right here when SPY reached 460 in July. They pumped it so that they could smack it back down. We had a nice head and shoulders like structure. We came back down. We dropped and dropped and dropped, right? Everyone was panicking. And I was the one who said, November, there's going to be a squeeze coming. And what happened? In just a few weeks, we went from 410 back up to the 450s. It just took a couple of weeks, guys. We went starting in November in the 410s, we pushed all the way back up to the 450s in just a month. That's how crazy the market is. That's how fast they could squeeze shorts. That's how insane things are. So, because January was strong, there's a good chance we're going to have a strong year. And because of the election, whoops, I think I need to correct this. Sorry about that, guys. Because of the election, they're going to continue to basically do what they have to do. And we're going to see the market just basically make a full on recovery very, very quickly. I also want to call out that when you look at SPY on the daily time frame, SPY also has a triple bearish divergence developing on the MACD. And this time, I think there's a good chance it's going to pan out as we're approaching the psychological 500. And the RSI has a double bearish divergence that's still in the process of developing. So they haven't panned out yet. We're going to be watching for a big rejection. Could SPY pump more? Yes, we could reach 500. It's still possible for us to get up to 500. But once we get there, I'd be very careful because that's when the market tends to become a lot more risky. I'm going to be looking for a big rejection pretty quickly on. I believe the correction is coming because the market's going to quickly price in a recession. I believe that they're going to just try to fool retail again. And I think that once we all turn super, uh, uh, you know, bearish on the market, once we turn extremely fearful, that's when the market's going to bottom. I think the entire historical cycle is going to repeat itself. So we're going to be watching when the market corrects to see if we get back to a extremely fearful fear and greed index. And I think that this is what's going to play out most likely. So that's my view of SPY. I still have the same view of SPY. I think we're going to likely see something like this. The QQQ is basically identical. I think that the QQQ is going to follow the trend. We're going to likely see the QQQ do the same exact thing. I think the QQQ is in the topping process as well. We're going to likely top between 430 and 435, somewhere in that range. And then I think that there's a very good chance that once we top, we're going to be looking for another correction. So we could push a little bit more, kind of consolidate up here. And then we're going to be looking to see a lot of these gaps to get filled. We have gaps down at the 406s. There's also this big gap down very close to our 0.618 retracement at 376, which is kind of extreme. We don't have to drop that hard, but I could see the 0.5 being tested around 390. That is also a real possibility. QQQ could follow the same trend, retracing back down to these levels. There's obviously more detail I could get into with this, but I just think that approaching the second half of the year, there's going to be a big recovery and a big breakout approaching the election. Watch for a little correction September period, then another rally as you approach October. And because of the election, they're going to pump the markets just like how we did right over here. So I still anticipate the same thing, guys. I think that the QQQ may follow the trend from a giant cup and handle. If you don't believe me, look at what happened back last year. We had a straight dump, then a straight rally. Within 4 months, we basically went from here down and then back up, and it only took a couple of weeks for us to make the full recovery from the lows we made in October, which is pretty insane, actually. So it just shows how strong the bulls are. I think that's going to pan out for the QQQ. I could go into more detail, I could go into more detail, guys, but that's just what I want to do in this video, make it very short and simple. What about for Tesla? What's going on with Tesla stock? Well, it's very simple. Very, very simple. Honestly, guys, who knows what's going to happen in the next 4 months to Tesla? But what I can tell you is that Tesla is still on an uptrend. We have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure. This is a left shoulder, a head down here, and a right shoulder is developing. Can Tesla have more downside? Yes. SPY and the QQQ could drag Tesla to even lower levels. It's still a possibility, but it doesn't matter to me. It does not matter. I will keep buying Tesla no matter how low it goes, and I'm still a big bull. So one thing we could do is we could take our handy dandy Fibonacci retracement tool, start this low, and make our way back up to these levels, right? All the way up to this high from that 300 area. Please remember something, okay? Tesla loves to squeeze shorts, and this thing back in May, Tesla was in the 150s. It went from 150 to 300 by July. So within 2 months, this thing exploded. It exploded in 2 months. It doubled in value. It ran $150. So it could squeeze like crazy. There's no doubt about that. How low could Tesla go? Could we retest these lows down here at this like 150 area? It's a real possibility. I mean, I'm not going to rule out that possibility. We could see Tesla do something like this though, where it temporarily. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. Let me fix this. Give me 1 second. So, when you look at these lows here, it is possible that Tesla comes back up to fill this gap and then it just makes its way back down a little bit lower, trades sideways, and we get some like weird consolidation. We could even revisit the 150s, right? It could happen. But when you zoom out, we have this left shoulder here, right? We have this head down here, and we have a right shoulder that's still forming. So Tesla is still technically on an uptrend, right? We're also not going to come down to 100. I mean, that would be very surprising. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if it's 150. It doesn't matter if it's 120. It doesn't matter. But one level I'm going to be watching is this 146.9 to 150 area, the 0.786 retracement. If we do come down to those lows, but it doesn't matter because when the big recovery phase comes in June, don't forget that Tesla is a stock that tends to price things 12 to 18 months in advance. We're going to start pricing in the next gen vehicle. We're going to be pricing in the new FSD developments. We're going to be pricing in the robo taxi. Okay. And Kathy Wood is saying that's a multi-trillion-dollar business. It's simple. And I agree with her on that point. That's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar business. It's huge. So I just see opportunity in this. Let it drop to 180, let it drop to 170, 150. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care how low it goes. I'll be buying those shares up in a flash, not financial advice. Okay? This could easily recover very quickly. And when the market recovers, Tesla is going to run. Mark my words and watch this video in 7-8 months. You are going to see something beautiful. And Tesla's going to break out like crazy. We're going to have a crazy breakout. Now, approaching the election, could Tesla just get some kind of like correction phase? It still could come down again like this um, in the month of like September. But then once we approach October/November, I expect a very, very big squeeze. Tesla will recover so hard, it's going to be insane. And I'm very confident this is going to pan out. Okay. It's a nice inverse head and shoulders that's slanted. It's going to play out. The structure is bullish. I don't see why on earth people are betting against Musk after historically it doesn't always work out. Now, could Tesla drop more? Yes, it can. Tesla warned us about some issues for the short term, about their growth, right? This could hurt Tesla for another 3, 4, 5 months. Tesla could tank back down to the 150s, 120s. It doesn't matter though, because it's going to make a full recovery. It's going to squeeze with the market, and we're going to be completely fine. I have that same view. My view has not changed. January was a strong month for the markets. It was a little weak for Tesla because of its deliveries and also because of its earnings, but it's going to be fine. Tesla will recover. It's going to be okay. All right. So make sure you guys watch this year for those opportunities. There's going to be big opportunities coming for the tech, buying up tech. If you want to play options, if you want to buy leaps, there's going to be a lot of opportunity this year. I see so much opportunity. I'm excited. I'm thrilled by what I'm about to witness. So I hope this video was insightful. My view of the market is for the first 5-6 months of the year, there's going to be like right now we're kind of pumping, but there's going to be a correction coming until May or June or so. And once we get to June, the bulls are going to come back and they're going to squeeze the hell out of shorts. There's going to be a full recovery approaching the election, and the market's going to break to new all-time highs. Tesla will also break its all-time highs. I would say sometime in early 2025. I still think Tesla could do it. And I think there's going to be a lot of growth coming. This company is very strong. Do not underestimate Tesla. Do not underestimate Elon Musk. Okay, say what you want about Musk. I do know that he's not always that active on his Twitter when tweeting about Tesla. I know that he's not always going to say things that people agree with, which is completely understandable. I personally disagree with him on things. But the truth is, he has a proven track record to prove people wrong. And there's going to be insane growth. There's going to be insane progress by Tesla. And we're going to be looking at new all-time highs before you know it. So it's not the end of the world. Be ready for a correction that's likely coming to SPY and the QQQ. I think SPY will likely form a top between 495 to 500. It could be a little higher than that. We'll see. And I also think that the QQQ is going to top between 430 and 435. And then I think that once the market forms its top, we're going to get a very temporary few month worth of a pullback. before the market makes a full recovery. And they trick so many people into turning to mega bears, expecting a big crash. The crash will be quick and small compared to the massive upside coming for the end of the year. Also, remember, for SPY, historically, January tends to be representation of the year. We had a very strong January. It's going to be a strong end to the year, most likely. That is what I'm seeing. And that's my view, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this video was helpful. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. And peace out.